Hello, good evening, SC viewers. This is Satellite Media. Let us look at this recent call from Afenifere for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. Recall that Nnamdi Kanu was adopted in Kenya in sometime 2021 and rendition from Kenya to Nigeria. But this time around, we are seeing a recent call from Afenifere for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. Let me read from the Vanguard. He's saying, Yoruba socio-cultural group Afenifere on Tuesday called on President Bola Tinubu to release the detained leader of indigenous people of Biafra. They want further to describe him as a political detainee. But I think what is interested in their position has to do with what they said here, that his release will be in the interest of reconciliation. We understand that after the war, but one who was always quoted to have said that to keep Nigeria one is a task that must be done, raised 3 points upon which Nigeria needed to come together, talking about reconstruction, reconciliation, and reintegration of the Biafran region. But at the end of the day, after many years after the war, none of this have been achieved. And again, the average Biafran, the average Igbo man, have made it very clear that they are not interested in anything in Nigeria, that their interest is their own sovereign state called Biafra Republic. And good thing, there's already a UN charter that talks about self-determination. Of course, the Nigerian government is already signatory to it. It has been ratified in Nigeria. So to that extent, it's a law in Nigerian legal jurisprudence. But again, I think this call have awakened the consciousness of, should awaken the consciousness of Nigerian government to do the needful, because there's no how you look at it. The right thing to do is to allow the man Nnamdi Kanu go home, because we understand that even before now, we have seen a UN group calling for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. So it got to show that federal government have no justification holding the man Nnamdi Kanu, especially as a court in Nigeria, talking about the Court of Appeal, that ruled that Nnamdi Kanu was extraordinary rendition from Kenya to Nigeria. As such, he should be released unconditionally. But let me read out what the UN group said here, so that we'll have a sense of what we are discussing here. It's saying UN Right Council Working Group on Arbitrary Detention has indicted both Nigeria and Kenyan governments for the arrest and extraordinary rendition, torture, and continued detention of the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, without due process. He went further to say, the council therefore urged Nigerian government to ensure immediate release Kanu unconditionally and pay him adequate compensation for the arbitrary violation of his fundamental human rights. He also recommended that government officials responsible for the torture meted to the IPOB leader be investigated and punished. But let me quickly say that Nigerian government have not since heeded this advice and or rather admonition, and they have since continued the prosecution of the man Nnamdi Kanu. But again, I think what is important is looking at the concern of Nigeria and looking at what shall constitute the primary purpose of governance. We understand that Section 14 of 1999 Constitution as amended is very clear, that the welfare of the people and their security shall be the primary purpose of governance. The reason I'm bringing this angle is very clear, because if the welfare of the people, their security is being threatened as a result of the continued detention of Nnamdi Kanu, so I think the government is not even paying attention to that very constitutional provision that talks about the security of the people being primary purpose of governance. Because every stakeholder in that region in Nigeria has spoken that the panacea for peace in eastern part of the country is the release of the man Nnamdi Kanu. And Nnamdi Kanu himself has come out clearly to say that if he released, that in a minute the insecurity in the southeastern part of the country will be a thing of the past. I think the government should understand that if hounding, arresting, prosecuting, intimidating is a panacea for resolving the impasse, I think by now they would have achieved that, because hence Nnamdi Kanu is arrested or rather detained. We have seen other people who have taken up the struggle to liberate Biafra Republic. So it goes to show that arrest, hounding, intimidation is not a strategy that works. Of course, somebody like the laureate, talking about Professor Wole Soyinka, have always repeatedly said it, that Biafra is an ideology. And as such, that you can only fight an ideology from a ideological point of view. That hounding, arresting, intimidating cannot deter people. Of course, we have seen it in the practical sense of it. Seeing the likes of Samanekpa rising to advance the struggle, though he has since been detained by Finnish authority, and allegation of sponsoring violent crime as levied against him by Nigerian government is what Finnish authority is investigating. And perhaps we are made to understand that in sometime May this year that he will be appearing in court. But the point is, if the government provide a roundtable for conversation and resolve all the issues that give rise to agitation, I think it's the way to go, rather than this kinetic approach. Because the kinetic approach, in my own consideration, is not even resolved. That is why I'm even urging even Mr. President, Senator Amebola Tinubu, to listen to Afenifere advice. Because for me, I understand that someone like the former administration of Muhammadu Buhari was not ready to this line, because we saw so many stakeholders under his watch coming together, approaching federal government, asking for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. And at a point, he told them that they have asked for a hearting, and he never released the man until he left office. I understand that it was his government that kidnapped Nnamdi Kanu and renditioned him from Kenya to Nigeria. And every stakeholder, locally and internationally, have condemned the approach as crude, as not civilized. And just we saw the UN working group asking federal government to release the man unconditionally, in what looked like a synchronization with the position of Court of Appeal that said that Nnamdi Kanu should be released unconditionally because he was extraordinary rendition from Kenya to Nigeria. But the point is, you must respect people's right of self-determination, because nobody forced the Nigerian government into signing, being part of that treaty, and nobody forced the Nigerian government into ratifying it and making it a law in Nigerian legal jurisprudence. Having said that, I think the way to go is the release of the man Nnamdi Kanu as a panacea for peace in that region. Because the way it is currently, we have seen both traditional rulers, religious leaders coming together, asking for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. We have equally seen senators in that region, under the leadership of Senator Ina Baribe, meeting with the Attorney General of the Federation recently and asking for the release of the same Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. And even the senator himself came out recently to admonish the president that he should toe the advice of the Attorney General of the Federation, talking about Lateef Fagbemi. So it goes to show that while the senators had conversation with the Attorney General of the Federation, that the Attorney General of the Federation is on the view that Nnamdi Kanu should be released. Because before now, nobody was privy to what transpired at the level of that meeting. But looking at what came from Senator Ina Baribe, it goes to show that the man, Lateef Fagbemi, is on the view that Nnamdi Kanu should be released. But I think I urge the president that he should give it an attention, because security of lives and property is very important in the society. If the release of Nnamdi Kanu will guarantee security of lives and property in the eastern part of the country, I think it's something the government needs to give priority attention. Because for me, life is sacrosanct. It's sacrosanct because we cannot create life as human. So if there's anything we can do as human to save life, I think it's the way to go. In this regard, if the release of Nnamdi Kanu will guarantee the needed peace, will halt the wanton destruction of lives and property in the region, I think it's the way to go. Though someone like the governor of Anambra State, talking about Professor Chumas Oludo recently, had a different view, that the release of Nnamdi Kanu may not end insecurity in that region. But I think I strongly disagree with him, because he is like a lone voice in that regard. Every stakeholder have said that the release of Nnamdi Kanu is a panacea for peace in that region. So I think the federal government should give it priority attention. And again, just like what the other lawyer said the other day, talking about Olisabakoba, there's nothing wrong in asking for self-determination. There's nothing wrong even in federal government coming together to say, okay, let us do a referendum. Perhaps under the supervision of UN or European Union, any other international body. Because the way it is, even the British government that advised Sunday Igboho recently through their embassy here in Nigeria to drop the agitation for secession and join hands with other Nigerians to move Nigeria forward, nobody advised them to drop the idea of exiting European Union and join hands with other members of European Union countries to move European Union forward when they intended to exit European Union. Of course, at the time, we understand that some British citizens were for Brexit, some were against it. But the important thing is that the minority had their say, while the majority had their way. But the point is, at the end of the day, they achieved it. And today, they already exited European Union. In the same vein, if the government have a popular opinion, I think they should ventilate it among Nigerians or among those who are saying they want to secede and organize a referendum. If eventually those that say they want to secede lose out, I think that will eventually put an end to anything agitation for secession. But to say you don't want to have conversation on it, to say you don't want to discuss it, I don't think it's the way to go. Because currently, I understand that the constitution we are operating in Nigeria is purely imposed. It never came from the people. It's not people's oriented. And again, if you go to the preamble of that constitution, it tells that we, the people of Nigeria, came together to write that constitution. And no time in the history of this country did Nigerians, whether by way of constitutional conference, whether by way of confer, by way of any gathering, came together for the purpose of writing that constitution. So for me, I think it's fraudulent and it's imposed on Nigerians. And that is why people have been agitating, including myself, for a people's-oriented constitution. If we must continue staying together, let us come together and have conversation around it. Let us agree that we need to come together. Let us agree that we need to be together. Let us have terms upon which we want to be together. That's the way to go. Because currently, even in the mind of Nigerians, they're already polarized. It is irrespective of the position and opinion of the government. Nigerians in their ethnic groups, in their tribe, are already polarized. It is only through the instrumentality of force, coercive power of federal governments, through the barrel of gun, that they now keep everybody together. But to say the Nigerians in their minds are together as citizens of this country, I don't think that is true. Because if you go and sample opinion on Nigerians, carry out a survey on this, what you will see will not bugging. Because the only way to resolve that is to have a roundtable conversation, like the conference we have in the past, where the government of Goodluck Jonathan brought every stakeholder on board to discuss the way forward, to discuss the grand norm, to chart the way forward, to have a brand new people-oriented constitution. Though a Jonathan government did not live to follow it through to the point where it could be culminated into maybe plebiscite, at the end of the day become part of the constitution. But I think, I'm not even saying this government should adopt that, but if you are not comfortable with that, they can do a fresh gathering of the people. Whether through constitutional review, whether through confer, whatever name it comes with. But let every stakeholder, every interest be represented. Because currently Nigeria is battling with myriad of challenges. Talking about banditry, talking about terrorism, talking about the inability of the leaders of the country to govern the country well. And all these are reasons why people say are not interested in the country. Just like the former president said in the past, talking about Olusegun Obasanjo, who once said that even the issue of agitation to secede Nigeria did not start from the Igbos or rather Biafrans, that in the past the Hausas did not shouted Araba, meaning divide. So I think it is something the government needs to give it priority attention and address it as quickly as possible for the sanctity of life. Thank you very much. This is Satellite Media, and I'm so much.